Welcome to the Metz Center. I'm Mackey McNeill of Mackey Advisors, and it's a pleasure to have you here today. Please continue enjoying your lunch. And we are going to get started out of respect for those who are here on time, so we can finish on time. And I hope you'll enjoy today. Our topic is Seeds of Wealth. And I would just like to point out, because not too many people got dessert, it is sugar-free. For those of you that want to have a guilt-free dessert, we have provided. For some people, that's prosperity all by itself. So today we're going to hopefully answer one question, but we're also going to teach you some things. And the one question we want to for sure answer is why you might consider using Mackey Advisors. There are a variety of reasons on the board, and what I'm going to talk about today is a lot of things that spring out of our philosophy of way of doing business. And really, hopefully, my ultimate goal is to change your perspective of how you see financial advice, how you see wealth, and how you see your interaction with creating the life that you want financially. Because for some of us, that's a kind of a challenging question or a challenging adventure in terms of how do we get what we want out of life, and how do we manage all the different advisors that show up in our life, and how do we know we're making the right decision? How do we know we're working effectively? And we're going to do this from a perspective of a garden. And the first thing we're going to talk about is why would we think about wealth and prosperity from a perspective of a garden? And then we're going to look at how does intent matter? Why does it matter that we look at intention or intent when we're thinking about wealth and prosperity? Then we're going to look specifically at 7 lessons from the garden. In other words, if we look at what does the garden have to teach us about building wealth? And then we're going to look at where do I begin? It's like, okay, here are these things I need to know. What do I do next? What's my next step? And then we'll just sort of summarize and finish with a case study to give you an example, a live case example. So I'll ask you, why do you think that we use the metaphor of a garden to talk about wealth and prosperity? So, planting seeds, right. If planting seeds is we're planting seeds to grow something. Certainly in our wealth, we want to plant some seeds to harvest something. What else might be true about a garden and wealth? Tony?
I have many things coming to mind, but it's, looking at that picture there was some thought to it. Those of us who have a cottage gardener background, which means we throw the seeds out, if it rains, to get water. You never know what you're going to get, if you're going to get.
All right.
So that intent, that planning, and then also that making sure that it stays beautiful, so that weeding out.
Right. Those are really all great things. Exactly. A garden is a great metaphor because first, if we really want to get what we want out of the garden, we have to do some planning. And so often in our financial life, we just sort of take some actions and we somehow think that miraculously they're going to get the results that we want. When if we had a plan, if we sat down and put some plans together, we would actually make our goals come together much easier with much less effort and much more reliably. And 2, we have to weed out those things. And certainly in our financial life, some things don't fit. And we have to be willing to get rid of the things that do not fit and plant more of the things that do fit for us. Anything else that you can think of why we would use a garden? Prepare the soil. Right. Foundations are very important. And the soil is very important in terms of building a garden, building wealth. We have to have some things together. We have to do the foundation building. Barb?
Enjoy the results of everything we've done.
Right. That's a really good one, Barb. Enjoy the results of everything we've done. So often, especially in our culture, what are we taught? Like work, 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 do. And it's like, what about just like enjoy? Have fun, relax into it. I know I can sometimes use that lesson myself. Anybody else?
I'd say it's always ever-changing as well, because it starts out green and then you have the different blooms at different times. And life and your financial prosperity is the same.
Right, it is. That's a very good point. Life is always changing. We can make a plan. As Tony pointed out, planning is very important in getting the garden, but things happen. Things don't always happen exactly like we expected, so we have to adjust, and the harvest changes when we adjust to that as well. Anybody else have a thought about how we would use a garden? I think those are all, Laurie?
I think there's another part of it that if we allow it, it happens naturally.
If we allow it, it happens naturally. Right. That's a very good point. And there are things that are happening inside of the garden. I call it, when we get to that lesson, the patient payoff, that we don't have to effort. Some things we do have to put our efforts into, and some things we just have to be patient about. So there's some doing and there's some waiting. Yes. Abundance, right. The garden is a great metaphor of abundance, and so can our prosperity, our wealth be as well. There we go. You can harvest some, and there's still more to come. Right. What else do we? That's exactly what we want out of our wealth, to harvest some, and we have to leave some. And that's also a lesson in, but if we harvest too much and we take too much, we don't leave any seeds for the next generation, then there's nothing. So it is a balance in harvesting. Tony?
Another thought that's coming to me in looking at that picture, which is beautiful, and with your intersection of joy and money, is you have the garden, which is the focus point, but then there's everything around the garden.
Yeah.
So it's that balance, that blending, looking at the whole picture of us and what we're wanting
Right.
in all areas of our lives.
Right. Very good. Very good.
As I look at that garden, I think of what Kate has said about, we can put it in a vase, but we can give it away too.
Right. And wealth is something that we can freely give away and we can share out of our garden. And that's a really great, that's an aspect of prosperity that's very much a part of taking care of ourselves, but the warmth of our heart of taking care of others, doing for others. Gigi?
There's also a natural life cycle in gardens. They come and they give and then they kind of go back down. And,
Right. That is, thank you for bringing that up. It's a natural life cycle. And that is just, the natural world teaches us that so beautifully. But what happens when there's a life cycle in our economic system? Do we think this is a natural life cycle? No, most of the time we're resisting against it, aren't we? But the truth is, it is. Recessions are a natural part of, if there's expansion, there has to be contraction. So that's called a recession. And I always say recessions are opportunities for us to reassess what's really important and to re-engineer our businesses. As I just talked to someone earlier who had done that during the recession. That's a beautiful time to do that. It's also a time to re-engineer our life. One of the things I've found for retirees during this period, it's been a good time for them to look at what is important about my spending. And they've actually weeded out some things that they were spending money on that they thought, that's not really important. And now that their portfolios have recovered, they're thinking of all these other more fun things they can do with that money that they were directing to somewhere that they realized wasn't that important. Right? So as you can see, there's a lot of reasons that we would have chosen the metaphor of a garden to talk about wealth and prosperity. And you've named a lot of those, and I think they were great examples. I don't know why that keeps blipping. Can you do anything about that little? I don't know. So let's look at intent. One of the things that when I work with someone is I always want to, from a business perspective or a personal perspective, is I want to know what's their intent. What is are they intending? How does intent impact the garden, and how does it impact our prosperity? Who has an idea about that? Right. So you have to know what your intention is before you can really put your plan together, right? In other words, intent is critical. You know, if you're intending, someone mentioned giving things away. If our intention is around gifting, then we have a different set of actions than if our intention is around building wealth, or if our intention is to save money for a home, then that's a little bit different than saving money for retirement. I was sharing the last time I did this seminar, which is just 2 days ago, about a New York Times article I read several months ago about a young couple who had been saving money for a down payment on a home. And they'd had it all in the stock market. This was